Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Minsanity Podcast. The guests on today's episode are well known in the mineral community and have been active as mineral dealers for nearly 50 years. They live in Bonsall, California, and they're known for their great minerals, fair prices, and expertise on minerals ranging from Michigan copper country to San Diego County, California, and everything in between. Don and Gloria Olson, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great to have you guys here. So a lot of folks know you guys for classic Midwest minerals and particularly the Michigan copper country, but you live in Southern California. Tell me a little bit about the connection there and how you ended up in Bonsall and what that journey was like.
Until I was 10, I lived in Ramona, California.
Okay.
And I told my grandfather I wanted to start collecting when I was 8.
Yep.
And within 3 or 4 days, I was out at the Little Tree Mine, which was only about 3 or 4 miles from where we lived. So I really was a pegmatite kid.
Yeah, going back to childhood.
Yeah.
So who took your parents then offered to take you to the Little Three because you were
No,
interested?
my grandparents.
Your grandparents, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Wow.
actually, the Spaldings came and got me.
Wow.
And I went out in their Model A.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And, they let me go around until
Wow.
one day I found a vein of tourmaline crystals.
Okay.
Never saw it again.
Wow. Yeah. So you had the childhood interest then, and obviously you were in a good part of the world being in San Diego
Perfect.
County.
Within 2 weeks I was, at the Little Tree Mine, the Himalaya mine.
Mm-hmm.
Then he took me up to Pala.
Okay.
And this George Ashley, who was a very famous, he owned some of those mines up
Yep.
there. And so he took us up to his mine, Katarina, I think it was called.
Okay.
And, he gave me a kunzite crystal. And then also he knew Alice Walters in Ramona.
Okay.
Who had supposedly the best private collection of quartz in the world.
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
doubt it, but
Yeah.
yeah. But
Interesting. Yeah.
and I would spend days up with her.
So it sounds like you had some early mentors then.
Oh, gosh.
She actually gave him a collection.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
I went out in their backyard. And
Wow.
the backyard was just full with minerals, and
Yep.
so she let me pick out 50.
Oh, that's great.
I still have a couple left, a little piece of petrified wood.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. We moved to Osseo when I was 10.
Okay, to Minnesota.
And the problem was
Yeah.
is a Lake Superior agates are what it's about there.
Yeah, exactly.
And I could bike out to these gravel pits right outside of town, where
Yep.
this little town we lived in.
There was stuff to collect.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
And I had fun.
Yeah, that's
But
great.
you traded for minerals.
And did some trading. Yeah, so
Some.
trading the agates for minerals.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And now, Gloria, you grew up in Ohio, and you come from kind of a family that sounds like had an interest in science, but also doing farming and other things. When did you first get the idea that you might want to pursue science and get involved in science as a career or as a avocation?
Well, I guess it started when I was 8 or 9, and my dad and I got the idea of going out to quarries. Mm-hmm. He knew somebody at the Lima quarry.
Okay.
And we went out there, couldn't find much. And then we started going around northwestern Ohio and Indiana. Mm-hmm. And you were able to go into the quarries at the time.
Okay.
And so we collected probably for 3 or 4 years
Oh, wow.
doing that.
Okay.
And at that time, I don't think I had made a decision as to what I wanted to do in the
Sure.
future. But I was always interested in science and math and so forth,
Yep.
and eventually ended up with going to Miami University in Ohio
Yep.
and majoring in chemistry
Okay.
with a minor in geology.
Okay.
And then I went to graduate school at Ohio State University.
Yeah, which is where you received your PhD eventually
Right,
in mineralogy.
that's correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was great. Obviously, being in that area for field collecting, but also having good geology programs and being able to pursue that at a university level.
I'm just going to interject.
Please.
When she got out of Miami
Yeah.
and she started applying or whatever,
Yeah.
she had a PhD. She had offers of a full ride from Harvard,
Wow.
MIT,
Yeah.
Berkeley,
Yeah.
but she had a boyfriend and not me
Yeah.
at Ohio State.
Yes.
So that's where she went.
And that was Sandy Ludlam.
Yes.
Correct. And Sandy and I got to know each other about 10 years ago because he was selling some books, actually on the internet of all places. And I contacted him and said, hey, I collect old geology books. And we kind of struck up a friendship. But I didn't connect the dots until then, but I had seen his ads years ago for the What on Earth stores.
That's right.
And that was sort of your first foray into the mineral
right.
business,
That's
I guess,
right.
was doing
At,
that.
at the time, when I graduated from Ohio State, Sandy was still working on his master's degree.
Okay.
Well, he was working towards a PhD at Ohio State also.
Okay.
But during that time, after I graduated, I got a job at Chemical Abstract Service
Oh, okay.
in Columbus. Worked there for about 11 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Sandy still worked on his degree, but didn't really finish it
Okay.
because we started a store in Columbus called What on Earth,
Yep.
as you mentioned. And it was a store of all things natural. Minerals, fossils, carvings. We had jewelers,
Oh, wow.
gemstones,
Okay.
and just anything you could think of that was a natural
Yep.
product.
Yep. Wow.
Other than- yeah, they sold Inuit carvings.
Oh, yeah, the
and
soapstone carvings
prints.
and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
That was fun.
Well, and you guys were also some of the sort of early adopters, you could say, of the idea of having a store, a mineral gallery, rock shop type store in a mall, which that was a period where malls took off.
That's right. That's right. This was an outdoor mall
Okay.
in
Yeah.
northern Columbus.
I see. So then you had that location, and then you expanded to a couple other places, right?
Well,
And-
actually, we developed another store in Cincinnati, Ohio,
Yep.
at the Union Terminal,
Okay.
which had been a huge train station terminal,
Okay.
and they renovated it into a large mall.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So I'm sure through that you obviously got to know all the kind of movers and shakers in the Ohio mineral community, the Medicis and
Right,
the Heisings and
right.
lots of other folks.
Sure.
Because John Medici worked also, right?
He and us were partners for a couple of years at What on Earth.
Okay.
And then we bought him out and just kept it for ourselves.
I see. Yep. Gotcha.
He had a lot of other things to do. He had collecting to do.
Yeah. Understand. Makes sense. He's a big field collector. Now, Don, even though you didn't know Gloria at that time, you had your own things going on. In particular, I know that you were involved in the box manufacturing business for some years before you kind of got into minerals full time. How did you get into that, and when did that kind of transition over to doing rocks?
Well, I never graduated from the University of Minnesota. I went there for 2 years, and and then I had to go in the Army in 1961.
Okay.
And getting out, I just started looking for a job.
Sure. Yeah.
And
He had 4 kids and,
Okay.
yeah, needed to work.
Yeah. I understand. Yeah.
yeah,
Got
and
it.
So
Yeah.
and
Yep.
they picked me, and
Okay. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was really bad prices.
Really?
Bad prices, really bad.
Didn't pay great. Yeah. That was in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
St. Paul.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got
and,
it.
I wasn't really ever happy. I was born to be in this business, and
Yeah.
and during that time, I started doing Denver and Tucson in '73, I think.
Okay. Wow.
And but it was
Yeah.
at the Desert Inn. If you
Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
So how did you approach it at that time? You would buy collections in the upper Midwest, and then you take things down to the Desert Inn and to
Yeah.
other shows and
Yeah.
sell them? Yep.
Yeah.
Did you do mail order ever, or catalogs?
I
or anything
tried,
like that,
but-
or yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
a lot of
wasn't
work.
good at it.
Yeah. Shows are more fun, anyways.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's where you met all the people. And
Yeah.
got the vibe.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, obviously, at that time, there were so many important people and major collectors. Many of whom sadly are no longer with us. But folks like the Barlows in Wisconsin, and then Paul Desautel, and who were some early mentors of yours when you were kind of getting into the business side of minerals, or folks that you looked up to?
Because I was more the mentor even when
Well,
I was
sure.
13 or 14.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I have
Just
these.
say people that you knew.
Yeah.
He knew all of those people,
Of
of course,
course.
because he went to the major shows.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to them also
That's
at
how-
about
exactly.
the same time.
That's how we met.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah. Yeah.
So, you want to talk about how we met?
Yeah. I was about to ask. So you guys were both in the mineral business. You were
Yeah.
working with Sandy and Wood on Earth,
Yeah.
and you were an independent dealer.
Oh, yeah,
And
it
then
was.
how did you two connect initially?
I'll start right in the beginning.
Okay.
I was under a table at John Whitmire wholesale booth.
Oh yeah, he was a big wholesale dealer at that
Big
time.
wholesale,
Yeah.
and-
Yep. Yeah.
And actually, he had lived in Ramona at one time.
Okay.
And but I was under there looking at Parral, Mexico, arsenopyrites.
Oh yeah.
And I look over, and here's this pretty woman over there. So we just started talking.
Yeah.
And we found out that she's in love with Michigan stuff as much as I,
Oh wow. Yeah.
and and then it just progressed from
Yeah,
there.
that's great. Wow.
But he was married, I was married,
Sure.
and it wasn't until 15 years later
Wow.
or so that we
got together.
got together
Yeah. Wow.
and formed a business.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
started actually
Wow.
when she moved in. We just started in the beginning. We forgot about the minerals
Yeah.
and just did cut stones.
Really
Yep,
interesting.
yeah.
Okay. Wow.
A lot of people don't know that.
Now, had you been doing cut stones a little bit in the store? That was
Oh,
just
yes,
something that interested
yes.
you? Or,
She was-
okay, so you already kind of knew the cut stone
Oh, yes.
business. And,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we started in that business, and
Okay.
we'd leave the house at 7:30 in the morning.
Wow.
We would be dressed in our suits.
Yeah, that's a whole
and
different thing
high
in the gemstone
heels
business.
and everything,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
My
our
high heels look
briefcases.
so
I'm sure they did.
And
Yeah, wow,
we would
okay.
go out
Chicago, Madison.
Wow.
all over
Throughout the Midwest.
Yeah.
And you would
And-
visit buyers and shops and things? or-
Jewelers.
Jewelers.
Primarily-
Jewelry
Yeah.
stores.
Yeah, I see.
Jewelers, yeah.
I see. Wow. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. So you had a period where you were really focused on cut stones.
Yeah,
and
and
dealing
it
with
shouldn't have been
jewelers.
because,
Yeah.
like the UP, the SEMA Museum was
Yep.
having sales
Oh, yeah.
during those years,
Yeah,
and we
periodic
totally
sales.
missed it. Totally missed it.
Yeah.
By concentrating too much
On the cut
probably
stones.
on
Yeah.
the cut stones, but
Yeah.
we were doing fine.
Well, can be a very successful business.
Of course.
And the
it was.
liquidity of that is very different than minerals, as
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
But then
Yeah.
finally we transitioned back to the
Mm-hmm.
minerals.
I displayed with cut stones at GJX for many years
Okay, yeah.
as he was doing minerals at
Mm-hmm.
other venues.
Interesting. So you would really have both things offered. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
it wasn't until the middle of COVID that we got an offer for the gemstone and lapidary business.
I remember
Right.
Yeah, you saying that.
And
Yeah.
then we just focused on minerals.
Sure. And you were also doing cabochons and
Oh, yeah.
high-end
Oh, big
lapidary
time.
material.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah,
So
thousands probably of cabs.
yeah, wow.
And we did pretty damn well
Oh, I
over
bet.
at GJX.
I bet.
Because I'd buy rough, I had 5 saws,
Yeah.
12 hours a day, and
It's a lot of work, but yeah, if you learn the market and you
but I
can
was
produce
sort of
nice
a
product.
workaholic anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's something you've always been known for in particular. I mean, both of you, but I think a lot of folks that have been around mineral collecting for a while compare you and Wayne Light and a few other folks who've been doing it for a certain amount of time and have the experience, but more than anything, have a drive where they go every day. And myself, getting into minerals as a younger dealer, I've always found that inspirational. And I've always had that mentality of, if you want to be successful at it, you have to treat it like a real job. Well, you have to get up at 7 or 8 or whatever and get to work and do something every single day. There's no shortcut.
When you're in this business, most of your relatives, they think you're traveling around. I'd go to Africa.
You're just on vacation.
Yeah.
That's not reality.
Until like my sister helped. I was in Africa and my sister helped her at one show.
Yeah.
And he said, "You guys are nuts."
Yeah. So what was, when you guys started, got together, and then had a business together, eventually got married, what was the first collection that you remember being really excited about that felt like a coup, something that was really a big?
It would be a few years later we got Ernie Schlichter's collection.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that was really exciting.
That was major. Yeah, that was major.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you knew Ernie and were friends with him and Vera.
Yeah, we know. Yeah. Vera, Vera?
I met her once or twice. You have to remember I was a kid growing up in New England, so I would see them at the shows. I would go to Springfield and Franklin, and they would be there.
Ernie was such a wonderful fellow.
Yeah.
I still can picture him walking down the aisles of the show, just a grin on his face, happy all the time, and just loved rocks.
Yeah, well, and that's a pleasure too, to get to handle your friend's collection.
Yeah,
somebody that you know
he
for
did a lot
years
of mining in the East, and he worked for Raytheon.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, selling rockets or something.
Okay, wow.
Or developing.
Rocket scientist. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, he loved copper country too, right?
He did. Yeah, I can never forget him telling me about he had sold the best Michigan copper that he could even imagine.
Yeah.
And he sold it to a guy, and the guy put it on a saw and sawed it in half.
Oh no! Jeez! Wow.
Cardinal sin.
Cardinal sin.
Yeah. But that was probably the most exciting. There might have been a few little ones here and there.
Yeah. How big was that collection approximately? Is number of specimens?
I'll remember it was 24 showcases.
Wow.
And just down in the basement. And
yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big collection.
But we did.
Wow.
Of course, we were younger then, and we could handle it.
Yeah.
We had some help too, some kids in the neighborhood, her neighborhood.
Yeah.
But just carrying everything from the basement.
Oh God,
up
I can
to
imagine.
A couple of trucks that we had.
Because I had flats shipped there.
Okay. Yeah.
And staples.
Yeah.
I think the first day the guy came back and he said, "You got any more staples?" And I said, "You got 5,000." I said, "I'm out."
Wow, I need more. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Well, again, people think you're just on vacation and sipping pina coladas on the beach. They don't see the part where you're carrying up 1,000 flats out of a basement into a box truck.
Well, the other thing is too, when you're traveling, you can't really vacation because you have all of this merchandise.
I know you obviously grew up, Don, in the Twin Cities and had known about the copper country and been there as a kid. But what got you really into Keweenaw minerals and copper country stuff?
It was probably, I think I was 15.
Okay.
And the club, Minnesota Mineral Club.
Yep.
You could go, they had a field trip up there.
Okay.
And you could go in the bus and go up there.
Okay.
And I did.
Now, at that period, there were a few of the mines were still operating, right?
Centennial
and Quincy were kind of at the end.
I don't think Quincy was even running.
That may have closed. Yeah. But obviously, it was a whole different situation than what it is today, as far as availability of minerals and availability.
I
can
remember going up to a guy that worked at the Centennial mine.
Yeah.
Conglomerate, and he had those skulls.
Oh yeah. He had
like 200 of them up there, and
wow.
I think I picked 5.
Wow.
Nowadays it would be a little different.
200 skulls. Yeah.
$5.
That's amazing.
No, because I was selling. I was buying.
Yeah.
The conglomerate copper for $3 a pound.
Wow.
And I gave him $5 a pound.
Yeah.
And then picked like.
Wow.
Stupid.
Well, and then fast forward a few years to the 80s and the 90s. I know both of you developed a friendship with George Robinson, who's a very influential person in the Michigan mineral scene and curator for many years at the AEC Museum. How did you sort of develop a friendship with him, and what was that like?
Well, I knew him when he was in graduate school.
Okay.
not my graduate school.
Sure, yeah,
but we would meet at shows.
So then George became the curator at the museum, and you were obviously doing trips. And, at that time, things were a little different than they are today in terms of there was trading happening, and also George understood the importance of getting unique things that the collection didn't have.
Right.
And
getting rid of tons of
exactly,
stuff.
duplicate and surplus. And
Yeah,
I'm lucky today to have a relationship with a few museums like the Colorado School Mines Museum where I help them get unique Colorado things, and I'm able to get nice things in exchange. And it sounds like you guys were able to do some of that at that time.
Sure.
Well, and I think when it's done right, it can be a win-win. And as a dealer, it's fun finding unique, unusual things for museums.
That's what we do.
And exactly, it's fun. And you get some great things in exchange. And, I'm sure that you guys were already well known for Copper Country Minerals, but I'm sure that and also getting to know some of the folks up there helped you offer more material. I know of a story, I think you told me, Don, of you guys bringing a collection that you just had got in the Copper Country to Springfield, because sometimes you would go to the Copper Country on your way to Springfield, and just having fabulous stuff, display cases full of stuff, and selling them at Springfield like hotcakes. And I'm sure that must have been so much fun, going up to the Copper Country, getting material, and then being able to take it right
pieces.
Yeah.
It was only 25 pieces.
Yeah.
We did buy a really good silver during that time, that same trip, but it was a lot of money.
Oh, I bet.
25 pieces.
Yeah.
But the wildest one was getting, did we cover this? Getting Ernie Schlichter's collection.
Yeah.
6 days before the Springfield
show. Oh, wow.
show.
I didn't know that. Wow.
She would not let it go until a week before the show.
Wow, that's crazy.
So.
Yeah.
She was making labels, I was pricing.
Wow.
And just sort of high grading.
It was just 6 days of chaos.
In the hotel, just craziness.
Wow.
But we got enough done so that we had piles of minerals.
Yep.
And it was the most frenetic moving in experience at the show, because
so many of them had collected with.
People knew we had it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
they're beating on your door. Yeah.
Well, no, this was at the show. In the open, and we were unloading our van, and people. Well, one person I remember was John Vivart.
John Vivart, yeah.
He would take just a pile of flats, put it in a corner, and put his arms around it.
Wow.
This is what I want to look at. And other people would do the same thing.
Wow.
It wasn't contained at all.
Yeah, because he, on setup day, he actually built a wall around himself of flats. Wow. So he was...
Yeah.
And he liked it. He loved it.
Oh, I bet he did.
Yeah.
But it was a phenomenal show.
I bet it was.
Oh, yeah. I bet it was. We had the collection paid for.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Well, and that kind of leads into another thing that I've always admired about you guys, and I think a lot of other people admire as well, which is that you're known for your really fair pricing, and that's an increasingly hard thing to do in the mineral world these days.
Really?
How do you balance that? How do you bring good quality things to people at fair prices?
You have to buy well.
And we've had several times where there's a collection that we really want to get.
Yeah.
And the only difference between the major dealers and us is they pay the same price. So we would get collections. They just have a much higher markup.
They mark things up more. Yeah, that's entirely correct. That's entirely correct. Yeah. No, you're right. You have to buy smart, and that's just, that's experience in one word. It's just experience in the business.
But a lot of it is also the fact that we were started so early, and we were used to so many specimens being $50, $100, things that go for thousands now.
Yeah.
But we're still used to, in a sense, that type of pricing.
Yeah. Understand. Yeah, well, and also I think, you have to, I say this all the time, but as a dealer, if you're going to be successful, you have to think of the customer's perspective. If you were in the customer's shoes and you're a collector, you want a good rock for a reasonable value, right? And not only does it sell the specimens faster, but it's just the right thing to do.
Why don't you do it here?
I don't want to compete with you too much.
delete.
Delete. So another fun find I know you guys were involved in was the Clay Center fluorite pocket of 2006. What was that like, getting to be part of that?
Well, my father and I collected there in the 50s.
50s, yeah.
In the 50s. And we found calcites and celestites.
Okay.
And at one point, my father said, Gloria, wouldn't it be wonderful to have we had little shards of brown fluorite.
Yep.
He said, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a whole room full of root beer fluorites? And I said, yeah, Dad, that would be great.
Yeah.
And they had found quite a few pockets of brown fluorite in the 40s, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, the big
one. Yeah, I've seen
the
some
really
of those.
big ones.
Yeah, very large.
But it wasn't until he had gone, he had passed, and we were contacted by one of the two people that were allowed in the quarry to collect. They were mainly collecting specimens for educational purposes.
Yep.
But then they went down when the quarry was closed in the middle of winter when they didn't quarry and found one pocket, which was very huge.
Yep.
And one of the guys called us up and called me up and said, Gloria, you have to come up.
Wow.
Well, you should tell him you're going to hit the mother load.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
We always told him that.
Yeah.
But
wow.
I said, well, Gene, it's coincidental, but I have a ticket to come to Ohio on an airplane.
Okay,
I was living in California at the time.
Yeah, in Bonsall.
And I'm coming to visit my mom in Lima, which is an hour from Clay Center, approximately.
Yep.
And I said, I'll be there in a couple days.
That's amazing.
And he says, okay.
Wow.
And so I went up and went to Gene's and started buying.
Yeah.
And I could tell the specimens weren't ideal.
Sure.
But there was potential.
As far as condition and stuff.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
They were good specimens.
Sure, but yeah.
But I could tell there was going to be potential.
Yeah, this was a big find.
And then Don and I, for 3 months, went up there every 2 weekends.
Wow.
And bought primarily from Gail, the other person who was collecting.
Now, she was sort of working with the quarry company, right? And doing some educational stuff.
Yeah, she was
That's what she was doing.
And she would just bring Gene along, so there was two of them.
I see.
She always needed help.
Well,
of course,
carrying stuff around and so forth.
Yeah.
And she was the one really that had the taste.
Yeah, she understood what a quality specimen was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes such a big difference in any collecting situation.
Yeah.
But it was, we even left in the middle of Tucson one time.
Yeah, the 1 year.
Because they'd hit a pocket or a...
That was one of the 2 weeks.
No, it was the same.
Oh, I see.
Same pocket.
I see.
They would go there every weekend.
I see.
To de-ice
the
water in the bottom of the
pocket. Even in the winter. Wow.
Yeah, the crystals were down low.
I see, okay.
And so after they left for an hour, it would all the crystals
would flood. Wow.
So I'm sure there was people who went down there to dig and saw water. So
but
they
you
had
could only do it for 3 months because then the quarry would start operating again.
I see.
And they weren't supposed to be
in that zone.
Well,
they were.
They weren't supposed to do anything on the wall.
I see.
They
wow.
did. It was in the wall.
Yeah. Technicality.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. So it was a process. It was this major pocket, and then it was a period.
Yeah.
Where
we had a storage unit there that we would. You know, I went alone a few times, and I just put stuff in there.
Wow.
And the last time we had pieces that big that we had to trim.
Yeah. Sure.
You know, and we did, probably the best profit margin thing we ever did.
Yeah.
And we paid good money for it.
I'm sure you did, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, she wasn't bashful.
She understood. Yeah, these have value, of
Yeah,
course.
one of
I
her
mean, it's the
sons
best
went
ever
down.
find.
Well,
Yeah.
towards the end, one
Wow.
of her sons went down to help.
Okay.
And, they knew when they were going to do the first blast,
Yeah.
which toasted it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the son ended up with, one of them I think is the best fluoride ever found
Wow.
in Ohio.
Wow.
And the other one, it was just out
Off
of
the
this-
charts.
Yeah.
Wow.
And,
That's amazing.
yeah.
We finally were able to acquire his specimens.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have much, but
Well, it's funny. I was in Keweenaw a couple summers ago, and I was buying some minerals from a young man that you probably know, Matt Heilman, who lives in Calumet. And I bought some coppers and a silver from him that I was happy with. And then he had one fluorite from Clay Center that I bought, and that was nice. And I said, well, if you don't mind me asking, why do you have this? The Keweenaw scene, as you know, is very Keweenaw focused. Anything else is considered sort of a foreign mineral. And he said, oh, well, this was collected by my aunt. And his aunt is, guess who?
Gail?
Yes, I believe
really?
so.
Really?
Isn't that
Really?
wild? Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Oh,
He
really?
said, oh yeah, he started talking about, my aunt works with this quarry and she does educational stuff
Yeah,
and collects
yeah.
fluoride. I said, wow, okay.
That's great.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
yeah, when we go back,
Yeah.
we could even go through our camera
Wow.
and find a picture of the two.
Yeah.
Collectors.
Yeah.
The collectors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
Gail was a fairly
Yeah.
petite lady,
Okay.
but her husband
Uh-huh.
said that if she found in the quarry, if she found the rock she just had to have,
Yeah.
she could put it in. Yeah, she could put like 80-pound piece
Wow.
in. But then if it
Yeah.
was bigger, she would build a ramp
Okay.
up to the gate.
Yeah. Wow.
And then,
Good for her.
Yeah, she was a great person.
yeah.
Yeah. Good for her. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
amazing.
she made a lot of money.
Oh,
off
I
of
bet.
this.
Yeah, that was an amazing find. Wow. Yeah. So
Yeah.
nowadays you guys are in Bonsall, which is in San Diego County,
Yeah.
and you've got two young guys working with you who are pretty well known in the mineral community. One is your grandson, AJ, and the other is Dylan Travers, who
Yes.
is well known for his easygoing demeanor, his knowledge of Northwest minerals.
Yeah.
He usually helps you guys out at shows.
Yep.
What's that journey been like, kind of getting the next generation involved and letting them kind of...
It's on you, Gloria. You can talk.
Well, our grandson lived with us for a long time
Okay.
after his mother and father got a divorce.
Okay.
And so he was among the minerals.
Sure.
Okay.
He was born into it
for
in a
many
way.
years.
Yeah. Yeah.
He didn't necessarily have an avid interest in minerals.
Sure.
But then he went to college for 4 years in finance.
Yep.
And he worked in San Francisco in finance for 4 years.
I see.
Then he decided that it would be interesting to work with us.
Yep.
And I was amazed at how fast he absorbed
Yeah, he's got a good mind.
Good. Yeah.
a great memory.
Yeah, that's
You know, he
important
would-
in the mineral business.
You know,
yeah.
well, as you get older, you forget things, you know,
Yeah.
or you have a lapse of
Yeah.
whatever. And I'd be looking at something and he'd say, well, that's da-da-da.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
Yeah, nice.
But he would
Okay,
remember
wow.
localities
That's great.
and minerals and
Yep.
so forth really well.
Great.
And of course, you know that Dylan, he just turned 31,
Yeah.
Wow.
and
Yeah.
he's been interested in minerals for at least 10 or 12 years, I
Yeah.
suppose, and has a great knowledge.
Yeah. Well, and he also kind of has a heart of gold, right? And people like dealing with
Oh,
him.
yes.
And that's in the mineral business. That's important. Being
He's
knowledgeable
friends
is important, but
with everybody.
yeah. That
He
makes a
doesn't
difference.
cause conflicts at
No.
all.
I know he really values the relationship with you guys, obviously, and also it's very educational for him too, right? Because when I was getting into minerals as a kid, I had mentors that were my parents or my grandparents' age, took me under their wing and gave me special kid deals on rocks, taught me about minerals, and you know that experience is invaluable. So I know Dylan is getting that from you guys.
Yeah, I
and
think so.
and he, you know, he's got the taste of a much older collector in a way, more experienced, because he appreciates the classics. And you guys are known for classics. You're known for old collection minerals, you know.
When are we going to find them?
Andrew,
it is.
because Andrew was living with us, he got to know a lot of important people. The Larsons, Cal and Kareth Graber, Irv Brown, the Arkfelds, Tim Sherburne.
He's no longer with us.
All of these people lived within 15 miles of us.
Oh, yeah.
And some of them would come over quite frequently. Like Tim was cleaning minerals for us, so he'd come over a couple times a week. And so Andrew really got a good
phasing in.
Well, he had the ideal community in San Diego County.
It was.
Is, I think, one of the best in the U.S. for minerals. To have that many heavy hitter, serious mineral people and dealers and businesses in, like you said, a 15-mile radius, that's pretty unique anywhere in the whole country.
Right.
So
Then Arkfeld left.
Patrick and Amanda left.
And
everybody left.
Sure,
Almost.
You guys are still in Bonsall, so you're not going
Bill
anywhere.
Wilson is still there.
Bill's
and
still
Will
there. Cal and Kara.
You're right.
There's still a little core there. And Mary Walker is
the Walkers were right there too.
Yeah, neat. The last question I have for this segment is, there's a lot of young people getting into minerals now, and they look around the shows, they look on the internet. Minerals are expensive. It can be a little intimidating. There's a lot of knowledge involved. You know, what's a couple words, I'll ask each of you this question, that you'd have for a newer collector, younger collector who really wants to get into minerals? I'll start with you, Gloria.
It depends on how they want to get into it. If they just want to buy pretty things, that's fine. You just buy what you like. But if you want to really become a serious collector, you just have to study. You have to go to shows, talk to people, like you, that are willing to spend some time with them. And don't take the word of all the dealers in terms of what you should buy.
Make your own decisions.
Make your own decisions, but also get a wide variety
of opinions.
And I usually tell people that young kids are, we'll have somebody come in, I've just been collecting for 3 months, and I'm going to say, start small, not big money, and the more you learn, then you can start. But don't start with...
you don't need to spend a lot of money when you first start. You need to learn.
Well, and there's so many things you can buy very reasonably.
Of course, absolutely.
But you can switch this to older people too, who aren't used to the rising prices.
Well, it's hard for older dealers and younger.
A friend of ours has a great collection. Never spent lots of money. But then the prices started going up, and he just thought, do I want to still do this? And our advice was, you still like them, you just look for the deals.
Just knowledge is power.
You
don't have to buy the best of everything.
Exactly.
Right, because that's what this is about. I look for trimmers, you probably do too.
Of course,
and it's just start small and build.
Build your way up. I think that's very smart.
I think it is too, you know.
Yeah, well, the people you get to meet in this business, folks ask me all the time, I'm sure they ask you guys too, so what kind of people collect minerals? What are and I say, that's impossible to answer. It is the whole cross-section of humankind,
There's homeless people that walk.
And the thing that surprises a lot of people that are just starting is that they don't realize that, well, at shows like ours, not the top shows.
Kind of, real shows for real
casual.
collectors. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, everybody dresses casually. You can't tell the billionaires from the people that have $100.
You can't.
No,
you
can't.
And you can't treat anybody differently than someone else because you don't know.
You don't, 100%. It's
Yeah.
very, very true.
And a lot of people, we're bad at it too, but some of the really good things, one of the first things they do is qualify your buyer.
Yeah.
Does he
It's
buy
true.
$30 rocks or $40 million rocks?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's really true. You've got to qualify so you really know what kind of money they spend.
Yeah, well, and also, you can't always assume, because sometimes the guy will buy the $30 rock, and then, he'll come back the next show and buy the $30,000 rock.
Right. Yeah.
And, it's again, as a dealer, having a good memory for being able to site ID minerals and localities, but also being able to kind of site ID your buyer, so to speak.
Yep.
That's very valuable.
Yeah.
And it's just, you get it through experience. You
Why
put
aren't
it
you
in your
better at
Rolodex.
You're great
Because I don't
at
have
it.
your little red
You're
book.
great at it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it keeps it fun.
But the opposite of that is going up to the UP, and there's rocks.
Yeah.
And they don't look,
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember the Illinois Fluorite District one time, and it was between the shift was going on.
Yeah, okay.
So we're driving around during the day, and there was a guy mowing a lawn. Yeah, and I stopped and talked to him for a minute. He said, "Well, maybe come in the house."
Wow.
He was an old guy.
He had rocks.
He had rocks.
Wow.
He had fluorite octahedrons.
Yeah.
And the newer stuff, his son was still working in the mine.
Yeah,
and
wow.
said, "Boy, am I going to be in trouble with my son."
Yeah.
And yes.
Score, yeah. What's a fun story? I'll leave with this. What's one fun story of a copper country acquisition that sort of you didn't expect? A great copper or silver or copper and calcite that just
To me, it would
happened.
be the little collection we bought. We were going through Minneapolis on the way up there, and we were talking
that's
to
when we said, we don't have any money.
None. We didn't.
We're just going to go up there for a vacation.
just for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Forget about buying. Yeah.
Have dinner with a couple of people.
They were just friends.
They were just friends.
But he was a
yeah.
collector.
So we went over there. It was heavy six figures.
That was fun because it was such a surprise.
It's unexpected, right? You're not even
Right.
thinking about buying. You're just visiting with
Nothing.
this person. Well, Don and Gloria, thank you. This has been a pleasure. I really appreciate you guys.